So sad. So sad.
Oomph, 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 oomph. All right, guys, I'm going to play one more song after this, and we'll get on with the live chat with Jeff Galewood. Stay tuned.
So sad.
All right, guys, after this tune, we'll go live. We'll go live. Get your questions ready.
Be the same. Few people laughed. Few people cried. Most people were silent. I remembered the line from the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that
All right, all right, all right. How's everybody doing tonight? It's a Tuesday night. It's okay. I'm not working currently, but you know, it's okay. Cracked my first beer with this conversation with Jeff Galewood over at JMG Reptile tonight. We're just going to chill. We're just going to chill tonight. Me and Jeff had a little good conversation in the beginning when I added him to the Zoom. And you know what? I think we're going to continue that. Jeff, let's talk about the hair thing again. How you doing? What's going on?
All right, I'm going to unmute it.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah,
we were talking about the hair. I was like, dude,
hair.
I wish I had hair like that where it's like nice and puffy, dude. I can't do that with my hair, man. It's crazy. But like you said, we should be thankful that we actually have hair, right? So
You should be thankful that we have hair.
yes.
You have hair, that's a problem. Some people see like, well, I wish I had that. A lot of people that wish that you had the hair that you have, Joe. So
Yeah, it's true. Actually, I do hear quite often, but you know.
there you go.
Looks like we have a head hogs. Dude, say that 3 times. Head hogs.
Yeah,
in the
I know
chat.
head hogs.
Got a Hybris here. We got Rimbert. We got Trin in here. Trin Murray's here. What's up? It's got 12 viewers already. That's good.
Cool.
Jeff, what's going on? How you been, man? Well, I know you had tax season last week, man. What the hell's going on with that, man? That was probably a headache, right? You had to write those big checks to the federal and the state, right?
Well, I'm going to write them like actually this week, but I was just going over things like trying to get as many write-offs as I can.
Yeah.
Talking to my accountant, he has to make a big deal out of it so he can charge me more money to go, oh, this was really hard this year. Every year it's harder every year. It's like the same shit, dude. It's like, come on. And he's like, well, now you're a corporation. I'm like, oh, okay. And then I do some stocks too and stuff. And so, it's a bunch of shit.
Yeah, it's paying a fucking ass, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. And then like that's the other thing too. You take so many forms of like payments, like Venmo, Zelle, PayPal, bank transfers and stuff, checks, and so you have to add all that up, all that income and everything. And then yeah, it's never enough either. People are like, you don't take Cash App, do you? I'm like, listen, I take checks, bank transfers, Zelle, Venmo, PayPal. What is the problem? They're like, well, I don't have any of those. You only have Cash App? Come on.
Yeah, what the hell's with Cash App, dude? I mean, like, do people
know,
try to
some
scam me?
app for
Do
cash.
people try to scam me with that shit or no? Have you anybody try to scam me yet?
It doesn't. Yeah. So luckily, so far there hasn't been a scam good enough for me to fall into it.
Yeah, true. Yeah,
I get like people like
meticulous.
fishing for my. Yeah, I get phishing for my information like all the time through like my email and stuff. They'll be like, your PayPal needs this to log in, and I'm like, yeah, sure it does.
Okay.
So I just don't log in.
So what's going on with you, man? What do you got going on this year? Any new world first you're trying to aim for? Like, what do you got any eggs being laid now? What's going on?
Well, I'm about to start pairing, so I don't have anything, laying yet. I don't have even a single hognose gravid, but there's probably not too many. I'm trying to think if I could hit any like world's first. Probably not this year. Last year. In a year prior, some of them I didn't share, but last year with a couple with the previous year, I had 10 or 11. I think I had 11. If you're counting some polygenetic combos. If you don't count polygenetic combos, then I had like 9.
So wait, not world's first? Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
world's first. Because
Wow.
I had last year I had Super Arctic Sunburst, Super Arctic Conda Sunburst. John beat me on to Super Conda, Super Arctic Sunburst, but yeah, and then trying to think what else I had. I had the Arctic Coral, Arctic Conda Coral, Super Arctic Coral, Super Arctic Conda Coral, Super Arctic Leucistic.
You're turning everybody's heads right now. Everybody's heads are turning like, what?
No, they're not, because they're just watching, so they shouldn't have to turn them. Super Conda, Super Arctic Lavender. And I don't know if I had anything else. I think I may have. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Not sure.
I talked to you about the one you have up on Morph Market now, which was like 11,000, and I talked to you about that. Dude, female, but you like you said, a male would be a little more expensive, right?
Yeah, it would. If it's a male, for one, it would be sold, or I would keep it. I actually ended up selling one. I didn't want to, but I kind of did, and then like then I already agreed to it, so now I can't say no. It's one of those things. So.
I might actually get that one off you. You got any bidders yet on that or no? We just contact you.
Well, yeah, it's kind of, we've been discussing it. We don't have to negotiate like right into live.
Oh, no, of course not. No, I'm not gonna go there. But what the hell are you eating, dude? What do you got? Looks like pulled pork.
No, it's a beef stew.
Oh, beef stew, cool. I like that.
Yeah.
So, Yeah, let's talk a little bit about breeding, like laying eggs and stuff like that. Like, I'm going through. Well, Rosie right now is she's going crazy, man. Her fucking pre-lay tub right now, dude. Or not her lay tub, and she's just digging up all the substrate, going crazy, pushing it all over the place. I'm like, she's been like that for the last 3 hours. I just checked on her before we started the stream. It's like crazy, man. How much she's just throwing everything around. She's just restless. And you're thinking, what, tomorrow? Maybe tomorrow?
Possibly, yeah, probably tomorrow. Sometimes like I'm going more by your prelay shed,
which
time
was
frame.
Tuesday. It was the 4th.
The 4th?
Yeah, it was the 4th, I think. Yeah.
Fuck this today.
So that was last Monday.
Yeah,
was a prelay.
Yeah, 9 days is like super common. Like I've had so many females last year lay on like the 8th and 9th, especially the 9th day, sometimes the 10th and 11th. But, you can narrow down the time. That's why prelay sheds are so important to pay attention to.
Yeah.
Rest of the year, I don't care when my hog nose shed. I'll see them in shed, spray them with water. They shed out, toss it. You don't, in my opinion, some people they like to record it. I don't know what the hell they're recording because it doesn't really help you with, notifying you of anything that the animal's going through other than it's going through a shed cycle, which is blatantly obvious. You're seeing it. But the thing is, the prelay shed is extremely important and crucial, in my opinion. I always mark it down. So that way I can very closely monitor the day that the snake's most likely to lay. You can get it pretty close, like, within a couple days every time, pretty much. Every now and then one will throw you a curveball, but not often. Very rare I have them lay 7 days after their prelay shed. Very rare it's, below 7 days.
Yeah, it's what we were discussing the other day about that. I got a spreadsheet, a Google spreadsheet where I like put like, lock up, out of brumation, blah, 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 all that stuff, eggs laid, pre-shed.
Yeah, that's good information.
So I put all that on the spreadsheet with the dates and everything. So I can always go back to it. You know what I mean? So I know exactly, well, this female was this and that and at this time. And, it's just like I like recording stuff, man. I'm very meticulous. Like I told you on the phone, like I'm very detail oriented when it comes to stuff like this, especially breeding hog noses.
It's good to be around breeding season. Once breeding season's over, then like, I just go back to like normal. And then like, getting them fed up and getting prepped for the, future breeding.
Yeah, true. All right, as we go along, Jeff, I got some questions here. So, guys, if you have any questions, hit us up. What we'll do is, as I chat with Jeff, we'll bring up some of your questions for Jeff and I. Galactic Muffin said, I'm working on a Superconda lavender project. How do you like the morph, Jeff? Is it visually pleasing or appealing?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, lavender is an extremely exciting trait because that actual gene, that mutation is something that's pretty rare. You see it in corn snakes, the lavender corn snake. And the thing is, it's funny because they have the same name, and it's not because they're the same name, because there's like a lavender albino ball python that is completely like, different and irrelevant to like the lavenders that you see in corn snakes or hognose. But the actual genetic mutation in corn snakes and hognose is exactly the same, mutation. It's doing the same exact thing. And then I think the lavender false water cobra seems pretty similar. I don't know if it's the exact same gene. I kind of suspect that if it's not, it's something very similar. Kind of like basically what I'm saying is, say if you have like an amelanistic, like a T-negative albino ball python, that's the same as finding like a T-negative amelanistic hognose. This trait, whatever lavender is, because science hasn't actually described what lavender is. We just make up, names, and we have jargon in the reptile industry because there's a lot of color mutations in reptiles that are not described by, science. I mean, because they have limited ones, like they have like, amelanistic, leucistic, piebald, axanthic / aneurystic. And that's really about it. But the lavender gene itself is a very cool mutation because it's so unique. Of course, I mean, because you're getting like purple, gray tones, sometimes even bluish on, these snakes. And it's a very unusual color to see in nature. And so, yeah, there's a lot to do with it, obviously. I mean, the Arctic lavenders and a lot of people know super Arctic lavenders are like one of my favorite combos, especially super Arctic lavender condas, the moonbeams. And the super Arctic
they're
lavenders
gorgeous, man. They're gorgeous, man. You showed a couple on your live streams. Man, they're so gorgeous.
Yeah, they do. They look really good. So, yeah, anything lavender, I'm a fan of the combination. I think it's a, wonderful trait.
So, when it comes to JMG Reptile, what's selling the most right now, currently in the last year?
Hognose snakes.
No shit, Jeff.
Hmm.
Like, what trait, what morph are you selling the most of?
Well, here's the thing. Sometimes I'm low on supply in certain ones, and other ones I have like quite a few of, and then other ones I hold back, such as my extreme red stuff. My extreme red stuff, I think, is kind of actually the sort of the toughest for me to sell in a way, not because people don't want them. It's actually there's a lottery. For one, they get better looking with age. Two, there's some people that I have to sort of compete against with their prices, and their prices are lower than mine, but theirs don't look as nice as mine. But in pictures, they make theirs look really nice, and I know they're not that nice because I've actually bought some.
We think they're photoshopping.
What?
We think they're photoshopping.
Well, they're taking photos that compliment them. I don't know if they're photoshopping. I don't want to say that. They're definitely taking photos that over compliment them, because I got some and they looked right in the pictures. In person, I wouldn't even have thought these were from extreme red lineages. Not even joking. And then, you know, they didn't have really good head structure, and I took a lot of time breeding mine to have proper head structure. I do see other really nice purple extreme line and extreme lines out there. I'm not saying that there aren't other really, really good ones, but there's not as many as most people would think. They're not as available. And then also, the one thing that's not really talked about in those lineages, there has been some issues with bug eyeing, and so that's been something you got to kind of pay attention to. That's something I've been meticulous about before anybody even really was like. I mean, people are always talking about being a problem, but I guess it just kind of gets brushed aside because, for one, a lot of bug eyes and hognose aren't identifiable as babies. They are, I can tell, but some people, because they haven't developed yet, I can tell which ones are, yeah, that one's already has, indications. And it's pretty easy to tell. They just have bigger eyes, or they even have shorter faces. And so, like, those ones I bought that outcrossed into mine, I was like, I just resold them. I was like, I can't breed these into my stuff. And so, but I have some that are like blood red. And then another thing is too, it's like, well, I'm like, well, this thing's going to get better looking in 6 months, so I better not sell it now. And so I have to keep it. And then a lot of times I don't like even selling them in the United States, because polygenetics are extremely important and at the moment underappreciated. It's kind of like if you're going to look at terms of projects and what the morph can do, I would actually kind of compare it almost kind of like, it'd be a okay analogy, kind of like a stock, basically like a stock that's underpriced and it seems boring, and so people don't want to buy it. But then later on, there will be people that will be interested in. That's how I feel about a lot of polygenetics. Polygenetics get kind of like sometimes. I mean, it's weird because I even see it in the leopard gecko industry. Even though the leopard gecko, hobby, that market is based only off of polygenetics. But even though it is, and people know that polygenetics is what drives that whole entire community and the fun parts of breeding with leopard geckos, and all the variability and variations and the projects you can do are all polygenetics with leopard geckos. There are recessives, incomplete dominance and dominance, but they rarely, there hasn't been a new one in like a long time. And the most recent 2 new ones were both terrible because they both ended up having like lethal parts of their genes attached to that mutation, such as lemon frost and enigma. But the thing is, I've seen it where some people will basically almost speak almost like derogatorily towards like polygenetic traits by saying they're not as good or important. But the thing is, these polygenetics, you can do a lot with them, and they're still in their early stages, because selectively line breeding in reptiles for colors and patterns and stuff only started becoming popular in like the early 2000s and like a little bit in the 90s, but not really. And so the reptile community with polygenetics is still extremely young and extremely new, because it's only been like 20 years. I mean, look what they do with like koi carp and stuff. That's all selectively line bred. That's all polygenetics.
Yeah. A question, I guess it's sort of on what you were just talking about from Galactic Muffin. Have you found any gene combinations that lead to lower life expectancy or health issues in general?
Well, I think just anything that would be like possibly like really, really inbred with like a bunch of weaker traits that'd be possible. But a lot of these traits that there used to be issues with have been pretty diversified now, and there's very large sample sizes of these morphs in different collections where you can avoid that by just having, you know, a little bit like genetically diverse animals. You know, like pastel pinks used to be notorious for having earlier deaths, problems like that, even neurological problems. You don't hear about it as much now. Like every now and then I'll hear of one that's like neurological. I haven't seen it firsthand. I only one back like 12 years ago. But I have a few that are extremely outcrossed, and I'm going to see. They're my first pastel pinks I'm making. I'll see how it goes. But that was, you know, I used to hear horror stories about them back when I was like around like 11, 12, 13, 14 years old, even up until I was in my late teens. Now people have, you know, them and they do well. I've even heard issues with the fertility in males. I don't hear about that anymore. I still hear some issues with females' fertility. But as far as longevity and health, they seem to be doing great. So, you know, things have changed with them just being outcrossed a bit originally, because I know just from assuming from the information I had back when I was in my early teens that the pastel pinks, everybody that was buying them were buying pastel pinks and hets and then just breeding them to each other. You're like, you know what I mean? They weren't doing a lot of outcrossing. They weren't breeding them out and stuff like that. And you just hear all kinds of problems. And even albinos, used to have some problems, and hypos too. And all that's been, pretty much has pretty much vanished with, being outcrossed and stuff, and being more genetically diverse now and not so inbred.
Yeah. Geez, I love your rants, man. I know everybody loves your rants, man, because every time I go watch the comments in our videos and our chats, like people just love the way you rant, man. It's great. And
good. I'm glad they appreciate.
Yeah, they do. And people need to realize sometimes I'll interrupt Jeff, and I've been interviewing people for the last 10 years, not here, but in other channels that I have on YouTube, that sometimes I'll interrupt Jeff because I'll have a question on what he's saying. Like bug eye, I was going to come up with the bug eye thing, but after he was like talking, he actually told us what bug eye means. But,
right, yeah.
Yeah, so Jeff, another question I have for you, which we talked about the other day, I think, is my Conda, Rosie, that's going to be laying eggs here tonight or tomorrow, or maybe even the next day. She has like a little purple on her and this and that. And I asked you, like, how do you detect if a Conda or a Hognose snake is what would they call a purple line or a red line? Is there a such thing as that? Because I see on Morph Market all the time, like, oh, well, this is a purple line Conda, or this is a red line Conda, and when you look at it, you're like, I don't see no purple. I mean, what's up with that terminologies?
Yeah, you know what? It's fun when people put like purple on it, because if you think purple, the one Hognose you might think of is a friggin' lavender, not actual purple line animals. Now, it's a lot of the original purple line stuff. I don't want to get too into. Well, basically, I'll just say it because I'm not going to hold back. Fuck it.
No, keep on going,
I don't
man.
think. I think purple line is definitely, and anybody that's been in this long time with me and stuff, or with Hognose, and we talk about, they'll agree. Purple line is basically a offshoot of extreme red. And then one person that originated kind of says it's not. It's completely different. We don't believe it. That's impossible with the time frame for them to also be selectively line breeding and other red lineage simultaneously linear just all these years without releasing any, and then it also looking like a variation of some extreme reds.
Yeah.
They're good. I mean, they're basically the whole thing that basically makes purple lines a purple are like the original ones were like deep maroon red. Like they were more of like a variation of like extreme red that had like really, really dark saddles. Like sometimes they'd be like maroon or like almost blackish looking or ox blood red. Well, actually not quite ox blood, but again, like more just like deep maroon, or even like the saddles would almost appear black because it's just so color saturated. So, it is deserving of its own lineage, but they're related to extreme reds and stuff. But again, you can have what I call spin-offs, and the thing is, that's a problem. People will try to say certain things because they'll think of it like is like not bad, but people will sometimes try to discredit things. Like I remember when I was selling lemon ghost for like $800, there'd be some clown that had a lemon ghost outcross that was barely yellow and green, and people would be like, "Don't buy Jeff's. His are like, oh, his are like 6.8. He's trying to rip you off. Buy this one for $250." And the thing would look like a muddy, like, you know, greenish normal. And I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, it's like partly related, but you know, it's not an actual pure lemon ghost. It doesn't have the quality. And the funny thing is, sometimes people, if you even buy like an outcrossed one of a lot of polygenetics, whether it be extreme red or if you buy one, and if you plan on working for the project for a long time, I always say the best advice I would give, and it's actually advice I don't mind when people don't take it, because it actually helps out people that are working on the project even more. A lot of people will try to, I'm going to spend $400 or $500 less. Meanwhile, if they plan on working for the project for 10 years, that little bit of money saved, you got to remember, that's going to span over all of these next generations. So if you buy one that's not quite as nice as the quality as you possibly could, that nicer quality one will always have you more advanced in the future. So you'll always kind of be playing catch up.
Yeah.
Overall, over just like $500-700 or even $1,000. Now, if you divide it over the span, if you're going to be breeding for the next 5 or 10 years, it comes out to like $100-200 a year.
Oh, wow.
It's like no money, but you know, people don't think of math. I don't think in a more long-term perspective. But polygenetics are important. I don't even remember what the question was. Oh, it's purple lines and how can you tell? Well, the other thing is too is like you want to see somebody producing really nice purple or extreme red lines, or even just a really nice red line, like the raging red stuff. That's like a new variation of
I noticed that online
face
recently.
Yeah, and those are pretty, and there's a lot of really, really good ones, and you can see that these are very nice animals. Now, the one thing that comes into play, like I've seen people with like, you know, lemon ghosts and some reds and stuff, they'll breed them to something that doesn't have, say, lemon ghost or red in it, and then they'll still call them that. And it's like, well, this is an outcross. And some of these people don't even remember what percent or what purity their original one was. And so they don't even know what percentages are. Percentages are a good way to keep track, and also to later understand a good way to outcross them and then breed them back into the line without sacrificing or losing foothold on the project that you've, you know, been selectively line breeding to, you know, achieve these, you know, colors that you know,
keep
these
with it and
desirable
just keep
colors.
Yeah, exactly. All right.
Yeah. So
good.
Yeah, but anyway, some of these purple line stuff, I mean, like I see them, you know, some people might be putting labels on them just to help sell it. Maybe they have a small percentage of it. You know, I can't, you know, because there's like, you know, on Morph Market, it could be at any time like 30 people posting something with purple line. And some of them I see them, I'm like, yeah, that one I wouldn't even, if it was me personally, I wouldn't pay for that. Other ones, I'm like, yeah, that's a nice one. And I've seen some too that don't look that good. And knowing what the person has, I mean, yeah, that's actually probably pretty good bloodline. Because sometimes, even when you're breeding really nice stuff from good bloodlines, sometimes you'll get some that don't come out that nice, but they can be deceiving because they'll be like, wow, this one's might not make really nice ones. But if they come from really good bloodlines, but they're not expressing a lot of it, being bred back to a really nice example of that same polygenetic trait, you can get some really nice ones from those. So don't be fooled every time.
Yeah, I noticed that today. I was looking on Morph Market, and I was like I was looking at these purple lines. So I was just like, I don't see no purple. I'm like, what's going on here? I'm like, I see a little deep red, but like you said, with the Rosie, she has this dark maroon, like you said, dark maroon, and somebody stated in one of my videos, wow, that's a nice purple line. I'm like, purple line? I've never heard this before.
Yeah. So basically, purple lines like just a maroon. It's a type of red, but you know, the purple was chosen. And now we're stuck with calling them purples.
Now we're stuck with calling them purple line, right?
Yeah, then everybody that's new into Hognose, they're like, well, that's not purple, you're an idiot. And I'm like, I know, but let me explain to you why it's called this. It's just maroon. It's like from like, well, that one's not maroon. I'm like, I know, I'm sorry.
Yeah, because when I look at Rosie, she has like really dark red, like maroon color. But I got 4 or 5 questions already right here. I'm gonna grab a drink while I ask this question, and you can take over the stream. Dal Kanka asks, could you go into, which you already touched on a little bit, could you go into polygenetics a bit more? How are the traits like extreme red expressed onto offspring? Do both parents need the trait for it to pass on?
Okay. Yeah, I kind of touched on it a bit. But the last part is something I didn't really explain too deeply. basically when you say take a really nice extreme red and you breed it to, like, let's say that's something that's like doesn't have any red in it, and that's the thing too, like there's less and less normal just like wild type hognose now than there was when I started. When I was a kid, it was like pretty much all wild types. A lot of things, there were only 1 or 2 generations from wild caughts, or they were actual wild caughts or captive hatched. But actually, even in the wild, you'd see some reddish hognose. I remember seeing people with, like, you know, captive hatched babies from a wild caught female from some area in West Texas. He was around Lubbock a lot because that's where Richard Evans was collecting a lot of these hognose. That's where he lived, and there's a lot of hognose there. But you'll get some reddish ones. But let's just say that's like kind of unimportant. But if you take an extreme red and you breed it to a normal, a really nice one, that polygenetics just isn't completely going away. And some of the babies, though, it might almost appear as if it did, especially if you breed it. Like I bred some extreme red stuff to Montana localities. This is a good example because I was breeding it into stables. And I took one of my best purple extreme red females. She was like black looking almost. She was so deep, dark maroon red. Bred her to a sable. And you'd kind of see it subtly in the babies because the thing is, when you line breed something that's very strong, it just doesn't go away. But the offspring, bring them to like a sable line where up there, the normal wild type version underneath the sable, aside from the sable gene, this would just be like a greenish normal looking hognose. And so something that's completely uncomplimentary towards red. And so you'd get some of these ones with like boldish pattern where it kind of like, okay, it has like similar pattern or some of my extreme purple red line stuff. And the saddles are kind of like a deeper, like muddy, kind of like brown, but it's like almost reminds you of red. I mean, it's not, but you believe like there's some red, you know, in there. But, you know, then you would want to take those animals and either breed them back together and you'll actually get better results than the offspring. Even though you're not breeding it back into extreme red, just breeding those offspring together usually pulls a little more of those polygenetics out. And some, you're going to get a variation. And the best bet, though, would be, I mean, there's a lot of things. So the problem is now these are het sables. You know, it's like, well, if you breed one of these het sables back to an extreme red, it's like, well, now you got 50%ers. That's what I would do because now you're getting back more of the polygenetic, but you have pos hets. But I would keep back those pos hets and then, you know, breed them back to actual hets or breed them to each other. There's I'm not going to go into that. There's a few different things you can do to try to get the polygenetics into this recessive trait a little more tactfully.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, the thing is, this stuff just doesn't disappear. And that's why it comes into hand to like say, hey, I had a really nice purple extreme red line. And if it's like, you know, a really high quality one that's from purple extreme red lines, and you ask the person like, hey, this one's from really good bloodlines, and it's obviously a very strong phenotype, you know, of this polygenetic trait, this purple extreme red. And let's just say it's like a really, really nice one. And you know, for sure, it's probably not quite pure, but it's probably close. I'd still call it like basically 100%, even though it might be in actually 90% tile range. And then you'd call those babies like 50%ers. So now you got track of them, you know, these extreme purple reds. Because the problem is, if you get something that's like a really nice, you could breed a purple, or, you know, like let's say a nice extreme red to a reddish normal, and they can come out pretty dang red. And they're like, well, they're like 50%ers. And some of them might be almost as close to nice as, you know, even the parents in this case, because you bred it to a really good outcross, really nice red. Now, some people just call them extreme reds, and this person unexpectedly is getting an extreme red, but they don't know it's actually 50% lineage. So when they go to breed it or whatever, they're not going to, even though it might be a really nice one, or you might even look close to a pure one, it's not going to give them as good of results or the same results.
Nice.
So
nice.
Yes. Yeah, I think I answered that pretty, I don't think fully, but pretty close.
You did very well, dude. Can we get a clap in the chat, guys? That was freaking awesome, dude. Got a couple more questions here. I was going to ask you something, and now I totally forget. We got a couple here. Hold on. Here's one. What would you expect to get from breeding an albino to a 50% toffee?
To a 50% posset toffee to an albino? I'd expect normals that are het albino, low chance posset toffee.
What would happen if you breed a pink pastel to a regular albino?
You get double het pastel pink albinos because they're on different loci. Those that allele mutation, they're on different loci, different locations. They're affecting different pairs of alleles, so they don't reside on the same allele. So you'd get double hets, kind of like axanthic and albino. They're on different loci. So if you breed an axanthic to an albino, you get double het snows. Pastel pink to an albino, you get double het pastel pink. albinos or PPAs, or let's just say pastels, double pastel pink albinos. And pastel pink albino double visual is called an electric.
Electric. Well, I've never heard that before.
Joe Schmidt has them. Not you, Joe Schmidt. The other Joe Schmidt.
You believe that there's 2 Joe Schmidts in the Hognose community now? It's freaking crazy.
Yeah, that'd be great if like a Jeff Galewood popped up.
I don't think
And he's
it's
like
gonna
a
happen.
total dick like
Listen,
me.
Joe,
That'd
very
be great.
common. Schmidt, very common.
Yeah.
Well, Schmidt's not really too common, but
Yeah, I know what you mean though.
I saw a good one here. Oh, Michael. My friend Michael here. He's on my Instagram. I talk to him quite often. Michael asked, which I think I asked you in my first interview with you, what was the breeding that resulted in your discovery of the Arctic gene? It's good to refresh on this.
Basically the full discovery. I mean, I had Arctics before I knew there was a homozygous form. And I had some that were kind of mixed into my lemon ghost, and lemon ghost was kind of masking them, and I wasn't actually aware that they were Arctics. I later kind of figured it out, but I took an Arctic male I had produced and bred it back to the mom, just because she's the one that threw this guy that was odd looking. And when I bred him, I got like half Arctics, and I was calling him that. That was their kind of basically project name at that point. Bred it back to the lemon ghost mom, who happened to also be an Arctic, and I produced a super Arctic. And at that point, I knew, this was like, but obviously you can't, or say it's proven out with one pairing. You can't just do that.
Yeah, you can't do it. Yeah.
So I mean, I had done multiple pairings. I had already made Arctics on like 2 different occasions with this guy, and that mom had actually produced other Arctics, and I kind of had them like, but they weren't like the best looking ones. So I wasn't even really calling some of those, but I held them all back. And because I could see that there was something a little different about them, but they were kind of like low key Arctics, what we'd call kind of low expression Arctics now. And that wasn't until I bred them back to the mom and produced a super Arctic, and I'm like, oh, this is something
You got
special.
something going on now, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could definitely see that, man. But dude, you're a fucking legend. Coming up with that gene, man, because now you got super Arctics, and they're totally freaking gorgeous, man.
Yeah, I know.
love
I'm very
super
happy
Arctics,
with that
man.
project.
Yeah,
very
dude, that
happy.
was very. You're a legend, man. You're always going to be known for that, because now you're mixing Arctic with everything, and it's just the triple A's and all that. It's just amazing, man. So, how they look, man. It's just they're so beautiful. Another one here. What gene affects the Lucy gene the most?
Well, it depends on how your perception. Some people might say albino. I kind of suspected, and was actually the result in the super Arctic was actually kind of exactly what I thought, but actually did. I mean, I knew I wasn't going to be dead on, but it was also not a very hard one to predict. Knew it was going to make the super, the leucistic have all black eyes, the super Arctic being present in the Lucy. But I remember I was talking to a few people, and they were like, wow, it's only going to make them black eyes. I'm like, no. I was like, super Arctics have translucent scales. A lot of times the rostral scale, their throat, their side, next to their belly scoots, a lot of the scales there are partially translucent. So in the super Arctic Lucy, you can see it. But the one thing I didn't expect, actually, I have a new employee, and she's actually familiar with Hognose. Her name is Grace. Some people might know her as Milkshake Hognose. She, I showed her today, and I showed other people, when you put a leucistic, a regular leucistic next to a super Arctic leucistic, they look completely different. The super Arctic Lucy is like more transparent looking. They're way softer white. The head looks, everything on them is completely different. And then the super Arctic Lucy, it does allow, because basically what it's doing is it's making scales partially translucent. And the only way it can be doing that is through the animal's iridophores. Iridophores are chromatophores that are like chameleons. Basically, that's how chameleons change color. Is their iridophores shift like crystals, and they refract light differently. So they're making the color appear different by changing basically these little almost like crystal-like cells, these iridophores, and that's basically how they change color. I'm probably not explaining it right, because I'm a bit rusty since I've talked about iridophores. But basically, that's what super Arctics, they have a lot going on with that trait. And what causes those translucent scales is a mutation in this animal's iridophores, allowing more light to be transparent and through these scales. So in the super Arctic Lucy, see, when you look at a regular super Arctic, you wouldn't think that you'd think that these translucent scales are only affecting, or these scales that have these iridophore mutations, like on these subarctics. Well, you can see it on the throat, you can see it on the rostral scale. It's like clear, and you'd think that's the only areas it's on. It's actually affecting the iridophores on the entire snake.
Yeah. Because
a leucistic isn't, it's not allowing chromatophores to be expressed, or like pigment producing cells. This just doesn't allow them to be synthesized. So that's why you end up with an all white snake. But with the subarctic being present, it's actually affecting the iridophores, allowing some light to be coming through the actual scales. And so you have this animal that's actually partially kind of like transparent. When you put the subarctic Lucy next to the regular Lucy looks like it's paper white, and the subarctic Lucy looks like it's like a soft, pinkish white. And then in the subarctic Lucy too, when you look at it on her throat, some of them have it. They'll actually have solid white, kind of dots. And that's basically the areas where there are no iridophore mutations. And so it looks like normal patches of leucistic. And it kind of looks like they got, I call them milk spots. It kind of looks like a Milky Way galaxy or something like that.
Yeah, how about that? Since we, I don't even know why I put Hognose Breeding up on the main page here, but basically we're just talking Hognose stuff. Question for you. Well, this has to do with breeding. Now, Rosie, I've been talking to you over the week, or the last 2 weeks, about Rosie. Now, she's going crazy right now. She could be laying her eggs probably, like I said, either tonight, tomorrow, or the next day. Now, when it comes to checking on them, you check on them every 3 hours, make sure she's not eating eggs. And also, when there's eggs in there, can I take them out and put them in the incubator tub?
You can.
Can you do that, or should you wait for them all?
It depends. It's very rare for a female to stop laying in the middle of laying and turn around and eat their own eggs. Very rare, but it can happen. And that's the thing. I keep saying it's rare, meaning obviously that it can occur. It's just very uncommon. Sometimes I'd say I don't even know. A lot of times I'll let them lay their eggs and we'll just kind of keep it peered open. I'll open it up and I'll see, I'm like, oh, she's laying her eggs.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing. I've been just lifting. I keep the lid not even closed. I just keep it just laid on top.
Yeah.
And I'll just peek in.
No, that's good. And just check in, because you don't want to physically disturb them. Because when I say I check every I start checking more often when I get when it's say been 8 days, 9 days, and she still hasn't laid them. I'm like, all right, she's getting very obviously very close. So I'll be peeking in sometimes maybe every 4, 5, 6 hours. Sometimes it's every 3 hours, and I try to do it with very minimal disruption to the animal.
That's what I was going to ask you. I was like, that's what I was going to. I didn't mean to cut you off. That's what I was going to say is don't disrupt them as much as you can, right? Just peek in, just do it. Yeah, okay, gotcha. Because Rosie's never hissed at me ever since I had her.
That's good.
So when I lifted it up today, dude, she's like, shh. I'm like, oh, you put it down.
Yeah, they're more defensive. They're definitely more defensive when they're getting ready to lay. Yeah, they definitely get more naturally defensive. And they're easier to spook too. Way easier to spook. So that's my new ARS tubs. They're crystal clear. And that's one thing I like about them is I can put the egg boxes in the back. And so then that way I can actually kind of look through the tub. Sometimes, though, it's not going to help you. Sometimes these hognose, they're going to till up the dirt everywhere. They're going to spread it all over the place.
That's what Rosie's doing right now, man. She's pushing up everything, man. It's just I cleaned the side of it today just so I can see inside, through the side like I was telling you. And she's just gone crazy, man. She's pushing the substrate everywhere, man. She's just not having it, man. So I just let the lid nice and just right on the top and just peek in. And like I said, I peeked in today and I pulled it up too much and she just hissed at me. And I was like, ooh, okay, I'll leave you alone. So I'm just gonna leave her alone all the way until tomorrow morning and just check on her tomorrow morning. I'm not even gonna check her overnight. So I'll leave it there. I got a few more questions here. We did that one. Oh, Galactic Muffin asked another question. Is it okay to inbreed occasionally? What is a safe limit for inbreeding?
Well, yeah. There's the one problem is what people consider inbreeding and what actually inbreeding is, because a lot of people have this interpretation that any breeding of any siblings or relative back to one another is considered inbreeding. And the thing is, the problem is when you say inbreeding, it's take it as negative and not like neutral or even positive. You know, you got to remember in the wild, there's actually what we would consider inbreeding or what somebody would consider inbreeding happening and occurring in the wild. That's why you have these locality types, you know, in certain areas, because, you know, you'll have like, you know, some natural selection, and you'll have also ones that are always kind of like, you know, every now and then partly related, breeding back to another relative. And it kind of happens imperfectly in the wild. I mean, we can't say 100% for sure how much inbreeding occurs in the wild and everything, but there's definitely a decent amount. I mean, there's the one area in northwestern Illinois, and they've done studies in this little population of western hognose snakes, and it's an isolated population. And they've pretty much gone over the entire habitat where they can occur because it's isolated. And there's like a one little neighboring habitat where there probably exists too that they didn't document. But the area they documented, they basically came up with there's about 80 western hognose there. And there was like around like 30 some adults, and there's probably some undocumented. And going by snakes per acre and how many there probably isn't more than 100 snakes. So you're telling me that these snakes aren't breeding back to relatives over all these generations? Yeah, of course they are. And even like I find eastern milk snakes when I go herping, I'll find the same ones underneath the same boards all the time. And the hillside that these guys reside on, and you know, there's definitely a decent amount of it, but you know, it's imperfect. Like, you know, a brother and a sister might breed to each other one year, then those babies from that one might breed to a cousin of one of theirs, and then, you know, a male from a close neighboring area that is partly related in some way gets outcrossed to that, and then, you know, and there's sometimes these little populations that might overlap, but there's a lot of fragmented, isolated populations. Like even the population of Missouri is completely cut off. There's, I don't know how many hognose exist there. It's not a big area, and you know, they're doing well, and they find babies, and the babies aren't, you know, having any issues. You can see that they're very healthy babies when people do find them in the you know, late fall and stuff. And that area where they exist in Missouri is like, I actually can't remember how big it is. It's not big though at all. I don't want to say because I don't want to be off because I don't exactly know, but it's not big. It's maybe the size of like 10 or 12 football fields. Maybe a little, it might be double that size. Even if it's double that size, it's not a lot. It's not big, no. For an entire isolated population of the species.
Especially if it's 100, right? It's like,
yeah, and actually hognose have a lot of pockets of fragmented, populations, because even in these other states where they occur, there's spots where there's, you know, not many because the habitat isn't really that prime. It's just like rolling plains and grass, and there's like, you know, near these sloughs and these marshy areas, and the areas where there's more like, you know, these prairie potholes where there's a lot of marshes around. That's more optimal habitat and stuff. But then, you know, there's areas like Colorado and Texas, there's like tons of them, and there's tons of populations overlapping and stuff, and those ones are significantly, you know, probably a little more genetically diverse. But I'm just taking these isolated populations that have been isolated for, you know, one in Illinois has probably been isolated like that for probably about 80 years. And, you know, the genetic diversity in my own collection is way more vast than these isolated populations that are in Illinois and stuff.
Yeah, this year, actually next weekend, I'm going to a really cool place for pine snakes. So back in the mid-'90s, the state had some kind of, there was this construction going on. They built this new condo complex in New Jersey, but it was on the lands where there was a lot of dens of pine snakes. So what they did is they gathered all the pine snakes and they made artificial dens in this area. And I got the map location, I got everything. I haven't been there yet. So I'm going next weekend or this weekend. And since it's going to be hopefully 70, 80 degrees out, I'm trying to catch them out. But back in the 90s, they gathered all these pine snakes and they made these like 6 artificial dens. And I got the map of it. And on the map, when you zoom in on Google Maps, it actually shows you like the area where they marked out or fenced out, and you see where they put the dens, because they actually gave you like an illustration where they put the dens. So I got that. I printed that out. So we're gonna go over there and try to find some. Hopefully find some pine snakes, man, this weekend, man. I'm pretty excited about it.
That'd be really cool. That'd be awesome if you find some New Jersey locale pines. Definitely take some photos. I'd love to see that.
Oh, I'm definitely going to take some photos, of course. I think we'll definitely eventually find them this year. But, there's 6 dens. I got them. I know the location. I know where the condo complex is. It's about maybe 100 yards, 200 yards behind the condo complex, and there's some roads that go back there. And, like mid-90s, man, I think there was like 60 pine snakes they had, and they actually recorded babies being, breeding and then babies being born and stuff like that. And 6 artificial dens, and to this day, they're still there. I talked to 2 people, and they're like, yeah, I think they're still there. I remember those artificial dens. So I'm going to try this. Cool. Going to try it this weekend, man. I'm pretty excited about it, man. So, looking and recording some pine snakes, man, my God, that'd be great. Because I think they're endangered here in New Jersey.
Oh, yeah, they gotta be. Yeah, they're definitely protected because of habitat destruction.
Yeah,
that's
exactly
how it always goes. Like Illinois, that was probably at one time, I'd probably say at least 1/4 of the state probably had decent plains hognose, western hognose habitat, but, agriculture.
Yeah, kills it.
Agriculture and developments.
Got a few questions here. Oh, I got a comment here from somebody that brought a snake off you at Tinley. Del Kanka, great explanation, Jeff. I think it was from a previous comment you made. I picked up a female from you at Tinley, and she's doing very well thus far. So
good. Glad to hear it.
That's always good to hear. Do feisty parents produce feisty offspring?
Yes. Yes, they do.
I can actually say that because my Autumn is actually the offspring, or I should say, not Jeff. Tiny Tim is the offspring of Autumn, and they both have feisty freaking attitudes, man. And I'm like, they're always hissing, and just it's hard for them to eat sometimes, man. Go ahead, Jeff. Sorry.
Yeah, it is, but it varies. Because again, like, when these snakes lay, say if it's like a pretty big clutch, you'll actually get some variation of DNA between all of these babies, and you might get some that. But like it is definitely inheritable. If you start taking your most defensive hognose and you bred them, and you kept the most defensive babies, you kept breeding them, you'd make some like horrible little hognose snakes. They'd just be like pissed off at the whole world constantly, because that's like how natural selection works. Like it's kind of like where the eastern diamondbacks in Florida. The ones that don't rattle as much are more likely to live in certain areas where people are coming across them, and the ones that rattle more, the ones that are more defensive, are more likely to get killed. And so the ones that are more likely then to survive and pass on their genes are the ones that are not quite as defensive. But the thing is, it seems like both defense tactics are going to work in the wild. It's kind of like Western hognose. I think that's why you get a variation too. If you think about it, all those defenses work pretty well. If you go up to a Western hognose snake in the wild, and it's a very placid, calm one that's very timid and it's hiding in a grass clump, most of the time, I don't think these things are really having to defend themselves that much. Their best defense is their reclusiveness and how small they are, how they're really well hidden, where they hang out, and so they're not really being confronted a lot. And the ones that are probably being eaten in the wild and stuff, I'd imagine it's mostly birds of prey. And the hognose isn't even going to get a chance to defend itself. This thing is going to be like mashed up by the hawk before, it's even knows what's going on. But there's other species that, say if like a coyote or an opossum comes across a hognose, and a hognose is just really timid and calm, and then doesn't reveal itself. And, it's more likely, that in that case, it gets away. If a person gets, near a snake, say if it's an asshole that kills snakes, and the hognose, is more timid, and the guy's like, standing right next to it, but the hognose doesn't move. Guy doesn't even know it's there, doesn't kill it. But then now you get the defensive hognose. If an asshole that kills snakes comes across it, he's more likely probably to kill it because the snake is, it depends too, though. Sometimes these hognoses aren't even defensive until they realize they're discovered.
Exactly.
And then, but then again, you'll have ones that don't react and are very calm. You even have wild ones where you can pick them up and they don't even react. They're just very slow, and it's almost like, these things are nice. And then there's ones that are just, defensive naturally, and that can, like, put off stuff like coyotes and stuff. Like, if a hoggo starts musking and shitting and then, like, flopping around, it could possibly startle the coyote. It could even put off possibly other animals. I don't know about something like a badger, but, that's the thing. I don't know certain things about these other predatory animals. Like, I don't know anything about badgers other than they're, like, related to wolverines and they got thick claws and they dig shit up and eat everything.
Yeah, besides human intervention, I guess it's natural selection at its best, right?
Yeah, but it's just like, well, the thing is like, you got both defense tactics work pretty well.
Exactly, both of them work very well. It depends where they're at, the area they're at, and the wildlife that's in that area too, I would think, right? So
yeah, I think well, in any area with hoggos, I think you're going to find 50-50 almost. I think you'll find defensive ones or ones that aren't defensive in all areas, pretty much.
Yeah. What is the difference between the hypos, Evans and Dutch?
I heard they're the same thing.
Yeah, I'm like,
I don't have I don't even have an Evans hypo in my collection.
I do.
I have toffee bellies in lieu of hypos.
I got Pos Evans.
Yeah, I have a few Pos sets now. I'm almost kind of a little disappointed by that because I kind of liked having no hypos in my collection. Not because I dislike hypos, but I've just gone so long with a collection with no hypos. But I think the hypo genes, fine. You can just do a lot of the same things with toffee, and toffee has really good fertility. They lay big, strong clutches. I really like toffees. You could do similar things with hypos. If people like hypos, that's fine. I don't really see there's a problem with that. But yeah, I have some Posset hypos and a few of my animals, and that's it. But I don't have any actual visual hypos. Well, yeah, I'm not going to get into that one because that's about Jeff. The Frosted project. Well, I don't think Frosteds are a double. But see, the thing is, I don't have personal experience with it. But just by seeing the results and seeing the actual phenotype of caramel hypos, I don't think Frosteds are caramel hypos. I think they're just a really weird variation of caramel themselves. Yeah. I've seen this, I've seen people get Frosteds and breed them and not get, the results they should be getting if it is a double visual hypo caramel. And then if you also look around, all these people that have Frosteds that make Frosted projects, typically they're producing way more caramels than they are hypos. A lot of times they're producing all caramels. And it's like, well, if you have a frosted animal that's caramel hypo and you're breeding into a lot of hets and double hets, you should be getting, depending on the breedings, but say if you're breeding into only double hets, should be 50-50. Obviously, these people might be breeding, say, more caramel, so you are going to get heavier caramels. So that could be an explanation for that. But I've seen people too that get stuff from Frosteds and they're actually, I remember Jeff Goldblatt posted something and he had the pairings and it was some type of frosted combo. They were supposed to be hets, but he didn't get any visuals, hypos and stuff. And he's like, I think this person lied to me. And that's a possibility. Yeah. But by seeing other people's pairings and stuff, but here's the thing, I'll see genetics that aren't, that are incorrectly described in other species. Sometimes I can identify it if I have enough information where people are telling me, yeah, this just doesn't make sense. It doesn't sound right. But the thing is, I like to have hands-on experience because when I have actually hands-on experience with breeding things such as leopard geckos, I know right away when people are talking about traits, how they're inherited, whether it's a polygenetic, because that's the one thing with leopard geckos. There's always a topic of is this a dominant trait or is this polygenetic? And most of the answers are pretty simple. A lot of people just have a big, strong push of trying to put a label on an animal, a project being dominant or incomplete dominant or recessive versus polygenetic, which is, again, that's the leopard gecko hobby, which always blows my mind because the whole thing that makes the leopard gecko hobby is polygenetics. So polygenetics should be celebrated. But when you talk to a lot of these people and they're like, well, this is actually polygenetic. You can see it is by these results. And they're like, no, it's got to be dominant. No, this has to be recessive. And they take this very defensive tone like it's derogatory that it's polygenetic. Well, actually, all the projects that last the longest and do the best in the leopard gecko hobby are polygenetics. And it's why are you denying this when there's all this evidence? Because there's a lot of pride, like the giant gene. There's people that try to say it's I don't even know what the hell they're saying now. Oh, now they're saying it's incomplete dominant, and it's not, because there's multiple pairs of alleles that contribute to the size of an organism, and the variations that you see in giants. And even what these people do, they even describe them as polygenetics. These people that say they're incomplete dominant, they're like, well, we have this one. Like they keep getting bigger over the generations as they selectively line breed them to be larger. And it's like, if this was an incomplete dominant trait, but then they're, well, we're line breeding this incomplete dominant trait at the same time. But there's this very fine line in some cases of what makes a giant, what doesn't make a giant. Because you can even get some regular leopard geckos about as big as these giants. Not as much anymore because they've line bred them so much, even though it's complete dominant, to the point where they're like, you do get some more impressive sizes, but those animals also have to be kept in a certain way and fed all the time to even achieve these sizes and stuff. But, that's just something from the leopard gecko hobby.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to get some leopard geckos in the future. All right, we got Katie Reeds here. I got an axanthic male from you at Tinley, and he does not want to eat. If you want to check out some of my videos, I actually give you some tips and tricks on how to feed your baby hognose. So if you want to check out those videos, Jeff, any comments on that?
I posted one on my Instagram too. You could message me about it. But I was vending with my friend Bill, and he had his own permit. Bill had axanthic males. I didn't have any axanthic males at that show, so you definitely got it from my friend Bill. But we were, he's vending at my table, and so you got because you have to have receipts you fill out. So because Bill got his own permit, of course, because he had his own hognose there. But I know the axanthics he is selling there, most of them were pretty big. So, but I have on my Instagram feed, you could actually DM me, and I could actually send you the link. Because remember that one, I made a reel.
It's down below, guys. His link is down below right now in the comment section, in the description. I posted it there before we start the stream. It's his Instagram. You can DM him there, and he's very fast on answering people. He's pretty good on answering people. So it's at JMG Reptiles. Or GMG Reptile. Sorry.
I'm going to get a water real quick.
Yeah, we're going to take a little break, guys. We'll be right back. We'll do another 10, 15 minutes. I got your questions. I think I got 2 more questions here, guys. If you want to post some more questions, hit me up right now. And we're going to take a little break. We'll be back in about 15 minutes. We'll be back in about 2 minutes. We'll do another 15.
Yeah.
What? You okay? So we'll do like another 15, 20 minutes, guys. Get your questions in, and we'll be right back. We're going to take a break for about a minute or so, okay? We'll be right back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to charge this. You need that door? All right, there you go. Don't.
Okay, a little dark synth wave. Nice. Jeff, you there? Hello, hello.
I'm here.
Guys, I'm gonna got a couple questions here. By the way, I'm really tired, dude. I was up like every 3-4 hours, man, checking on Rosie because I thought she was gonna lay last night, dude. I'm like freaking tired as f, dude. I know how you feel now, man. Like you're up sometimes like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. You take your naps in the morning and afternoon. I'm like, man, I need to start doing that.
Yeah, I know. It's a pain.
I can't nap, dude. There's no way.
Yeah, napping, it does kind of suck because I like full nights of rest.
Yeah, dude, I need a full night, man. 8 hours. 8 hours minimal for me.
Same.
This is a good one from Brianna. Brianna asked, any uncommon breeding tips? I'm sure we can talk about
Uncommon breeding tips.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out what that means. Like uncommon, like that's not spoken of, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, everything I cover. Well, here's the thing. I really don't really. Some of the stuff I do probably is like. Well, a lot of stuff I do is like I guess uncommon because there's a lot of things that I've started doing. I know nobody else is doing that. But the thing is, I'm not trying to sound a certain way, but I don't really pay attention to what others are doing.
Well, you do coca core when it comes to your substrate with your eggs. You do coca core. A lot of people use the.
I do.
Sterilite, what it's called?
Well, they'll use Paralite. There's all like, incubation like mediums and stuff. Though I don't think that's like a really like it doesn't really matter that much. I mean, if you gave me like dirt outside, I could incubate hognose eggs on. I wouldn't want to. But you give me, I could incubate hognose eggs on pure sand. I wouldn't want to. I like coco coir. But there's a bunch of different methods. Like Paralite, if somebody's like, you incubate a Paralite, I'm like, yeah, Paralite's fine. I could do Paralite. I would find a way where I could make Paralite foolproof. I would just do it like a lot like I do the coco coir. I would put it in my Sterilite containers. I'd put small air holes on each side. I get the Paralite to the right consistency. There's things I don't like about Paralite, though. Paralite, coco coir has got natural mold inhibitors in it, for one.
Paralite, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I remember reading that on the package. Yeah, you're right.
Paralite by itself, if you show me Paralite, I have a hard time telling if it's too wet or too dry. It kind of looks the same, whether it's like, if it's really wet, you can tell. If it's got proper moisture, a lot of times you can tell. But coco coir, I could tell from across the room if it's too wet. If it's really wet, it's going to be like black. If it's too dry, it's going to be like cocoa powder brown.
Yeah, it's very light color. It's very light color when it's dry, because when I was doing my lay tubs, and I noticed when after maybe a week or two, the top soil is like light brown, and then when you dig underneath, it's dark brown. So you can tell, like you said, you just look at it and tell right away.
Yeah, exactly. So I like the coco coir. I mix a little bit of sand in with it a lot of times. That's not necessary, but I like the loamy feel it gives the substrate and everything. And I even think like these bioactive substrates are extremely good, because the thing is, where hognose are coming from, the soil is very loamy, but most of the soil is pretty packed. And when you see hognose in these more like bioactive setups, they have pretty healthy look to them. It looks really good.
Yeah, one of my followers on Instagram, Michael, I think he's here watching right now. Actually, just made a statement here, made a comment. Yeah, he went with a natural feel, bioactive, and sand, leaves, all that stuff, man. Looks really good. He actually showed me a picture the other day of it.
That's really good. I'm trying to think if there's any unusual breeding tips. There's a few things I like to do. There's certain sets of rules that I put in place. Like if I breed a male, he's not getting paired with another. I give him a break of at least 7 days. I usually like to see 8 or 9 days. Get a couple small meals in with him, just get him to recharge, redevelop more sperm, so that way he's just not being overbred and you're getting poor fertility. I supplement their meals, of course, that people see a lot. I've been doing that for forever now, whether it be, calcium and vitamins. I do a mixture of both. I keep my hognose, my adults generally, especially the males, on a cool side when I'm breeding to help maintain, viable sperm, low 80s. It's not, you don't necessarily have to have really hot basking sites for these animals and everything. In the wild, when hognose are coming out of brumation, they're still experiencing a lot of cool temps for 1 or 2 months. Even in June, in these areas in Colorado and Northwest Texas and going up into Montana or even Manitoba, Saskatchewan, or Alberta, where there's some isolated populations, you're going to get night lows in the 50s, you know, even in June and stuff. And then there's temperature shifts, there's different humidities and everything. And I think some people pay a little too, you know, they're just a little too concerned. And it's okay to be concerned, but, you know, where it's like, oh, the hog goes humid. It can't have high humidity. It can't have too low a humidity.
You're looking at somebody that's way too concerned because I call you friggin' like every 3 days. It's so funny because we talked about, you know, when I brought my 2 females and my males out of brumation, I called you up. I was like, hey, what about the temperatures? And I think the reason why I'm sort of successful, or should be successful, my 2 females this year, because they're incredibly thick, is that from talking to you, you said, Joe, just keep the temperatures throughout the whole process between 82, 84, maybe even 86 degrees. Keep them at the minimal temperatures. No need to go to the normal for hognoses, 90, 92, 93 degrees. Keep them between 82 and 86. And you know what? I regulate that like a mofo, dude. I'm like always constantly at night. In the morning, I'm always looking at my my gauges that I put in there, like underneath the lamp or right above the heating pad. I'm always looking at that friggin' thing every friggin' night, man. Every morning, throughout the day. Like I just checked Rosie right now. She's at 86 right now. And I got my my infrared. I always hit the substrate, seeing where it's at, and consistently 82 to 86 degrees, man. No more, no less, man. So I've been keeping it there, and I think that might be. What do you think? In part of the success, along with the calcium powder I've been using. What do you think?
Well, I think you do overall. Basically, what you're saying is you're taking really good care of your snakes.
Exactly.
Now,
Yeah.
You're right. You cycled them correctly.
Yes.
You're keeping them at like really appropriate temperatures through the breeding season. Once they've bred though and everything, you can they're gravid. You can increase those temperatures. Like I'll have their hot spots more around 88, 89 once they're gravid. Once that's all done. But the thing is, you're overall the one thing that really helps the success is cycling them correctly.
Yes.
Having hoggos of age. And then diet and taking good care of your snakes. You're taking very good care of your snakes, so that's why you're having good success.
Well, thank you there, Jeff. Well, it's because of you. I got to give you the shout out because if it wasn't for you, I don't think I would have the success I'm going to hopefully have. So, Mellow Hogs is here. Hello, Mellow Hogs. What's going on? How you doing?
What's up, Brandon?
Got a few questions here, and we'll get going here. Well, we got a lot here. Let me pick some out here. Here's a good quick one from Michael. Have you kept any other types of hognoses, tricolor, golden, or giant?
I kept tricolor for a bit. They weren't really my species. I had an Eastern hognose for like about a minute when I was 10 or 11. I think I was 10. And that's it. I had tricolors for like about a year and a half. I don't work with them. I only strictly work with Western hognose. Oh, I had Southerns for a short bit too. I like Southern hognose. If I was to cool. Start to get into like another species of hognose snakes and have a good collection of them, it'd be Southern hognose. The one thing is, I think Southern hognose are very cool looking species.
They are, man.
Really
They're
like
wild.
them. Yeah, and the thing is, they're disappearing from the wild. So it'd be cool to have more captive ones because they keep getting rid of more and more of their habitat. You
could probably breed them and save them and just put them back in the wild, or at least in good areas, habitat for them.
It'd be nice.
I know people do that. Well, pine snakes here in New Jersey, I know they do that here. So
sure, yeah. So if there's ever like a program where they need some from captive collection, there'd be breeders with them that they could get government grants for to buy some and then to breed and reintroduce in certain areas. But it's a crazy thing because it's like they're knowingly removing more and more habitat that species
crazy, man.
Depend on because of exponential growth and the economy needs to keep rolling, and so they're getting to the point where it's like they have these reintroduction programs, but these species will always be like in certain areas endangered and stuff. It's
always great that people like within the states they're actually looking at conservation and looking at certain areas where these snakes are and just trying to conserve it as much as they can. So it is because these are
really great. Yeah, really important. These are pretty diverse ecosystems. I mean, if you
go to
Yeah, you go to these prairie habitats and like, you know, say like even like somewhere in northwestern Illinois, I mean, there's like
They use the
there's
burrows,
gonna be like pocket mice there. There might be pocket gophers. I'm not sure exactly which rodents live there, but you know, there's like 6-line race runners. There's fox snakes. There's bull snakes. There's
Yep.
you know box turtles. There's Blanding's turtles. You know, there's garter snakes. Then you have you know the birds of prey. You know, you have you know songbirds, and you have a lot of other species. You know that you know live on these prairies too. So yeah, it's a pretty important. You know, that's one thing I like conservation. I don't probably do enough to give back, but yeah, it's something I want to like plan on doing as I get you know older and everything.
Older, that'd be. I know, dude. Same here, dude. Like
I like the Nature Conservancy a lot. I like what they're doing because they actually buy back a lot of land, especially adjacent to like areas where there's a lot of waterfowl. So these are usually very densely wildlife populated areas because it's really prime habitat. And that's why, because like a lot of people are against hunting, but a lot of waterfowl hunters, I mean, all that money goes back to a lot of that money for these license stuff goes back to
conservation.
You know, yeah, these like
hunt
these
license, all that stuff goes back to the state for other projects. Yep.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yep.
and then to maintain the lands and stuff. So actually, the more popular it is, the more you know areas that they have for wildlife like waterfowl and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's why I always donate to you know my city, my town, my state. Always donate. Let's hear Mellow Hogs. Thanks for streaming, dude. You're doing great with everything. Well, thanks, Mellow Hogs. Sup, Jeff? Okay, here we go. What are your thoughts on adding RBE to other morphs?
RBE, I don't have RBE, but from what I see, it's a polygenetic. It's like you know, they call it the RBE pastel. It's something that kind of like, you know, it's just like brightens overall color, gives it nicer contrast. Sometimes they have like nice lighter background. You know, there's like, you know, there's you know, I've seen people put them in the Arctic with some pretty cool results. But yeah, I don't. And it originally popped up within like toffee bellies. I'm pretty sure. I mean, that's where you've seen it a lot, and was toffee bellies. But I don't have any myself.
All right. We only got 2 more. I think 2 or 3 more, and we're done. Do you ever feed anything other than mice, like quail, eggs, or reptilinks to your hognoses? I guess. That's
Yeah.
I mean.
Back in like if you'd go back, like I mean, that's the thing. My Instagram's been around so long. I kind of forget to repost stuff. It's like, well, I already posted that information, but it's like I posted it like 4 or 5 years ago. It's like in 2017 or something. But yeah, back then, you know, if you go back long in 2017, I was feeding hognose reptilinks and, you know, eggs. If I was you could do reptilinks. I think reptilinks are good. You could do like African soft furs. African soft furs are, you know, very nutritious. And they've actually shown that the ball pythons actually do better on African soft furs versus regular rats. And so I think African soft furs, mice, you know, hard-boiled egg, reptilinks, those are like your top things you could do. You had something like quail, quail chicks, as long as they digest I mean, I don't think the feathers are going to really cause any issues, especially a young one. So you could actually technically feed a quail. I mean, in the wild, they'll sometimes even eat bird eggs because there's, you know, birds that nest on the ground, like killdeer, woodcocks, prairie chickens, greater prairie chickens. There's a few other species, I'm sure, that lay eggs on the ground too. Hognose come across those nests in the wild, they'll eat those eggs. Sometimes those eggs probably have little chicks, and if they even come across a nest that just recently hatched little chicks, that hognose is going to gobble them up. Now, that's probably a rare prey item in their diet. Probably makes up like 1% of it. That's like kind of an anomaly. But, you know, hognose are a bit opportunistic.
Yeah.
They're mostly specialized reptile egg, you know, and amphibian feeders. But, you know, they're pretty adaptable. I mean, we see them in captivity doing extremely well on mice. If they do extremely well on mice, they can definitely, you know, eat quail and stuff like that. I think quail chicks are probably completely okay.
Yeah, when I go, I found many eastern hognoses in the past, and every time wherever I find them, I find a lot of Fowler's toads and fence lizards, man, which is always good. So you know they're eating them 100%.
Yeah,
especially the toads.
Yeah, Easterns are definitely way more amphibian feeders.
Yes,
and
yes.
you know, because you know, I hear mixed things. Like because my friend Dan Eby, he you know, of course, he's real into herping, and he's kept hognose as long as me. And he had Easterns, and he got them from somebody. He's like, yeah, this guy says all these Easterns do great on mice. He doesn't have any problems. And he goes, I fed them all mice. He goes, for one, he goes, his, even as adults, like the ones, he goes, they'll only eat it if it's scented with like toad.
Yeah.
You know, so he goes, the guy said they don't eat scent. He goes, man, I can't get these things. He goes, it's no big deal. He goes, I just got to rub the toad on. He goes, and they eat it every time. But he had one that just randomly dropped dead. And that's what I've heard from a lot of other. And Dan takes great care of his snakes. And so, you know, I really think Easterns do so much better on just amphibian diets. Because I hear from so many people that had Easterns, like, you know, oh, I got it on all rodents and stuff. And they're keeping nothing on rodents. And then the snake ends up passing away. I guarantee the same thing would probably happen to me if I kept Easterns and then kept them on a rodent diet long enough. I'm like, yeah, it's doing great. And then 5, 6, 7 years down the road, it just drops dead. You don't see that with Westerns, though. You know, I've had Westerns like, you know, 17 years old, 12, 14 years old, you know, thriving well and everything. So.
Oh, so, okay. Well, I had an Eastern I caught probably back in, geez, it would have to be at least 1990, 1989 maybe. I caught an Eastern. I was an adult. And my friend John, he probably lived like 2 miles from me. He had all these penny toads. Back in the day, we called them penny toads, but they were like Fowler's toads, southern toads. And we used to catch them. We used to catch and feed them to the hognose. Oh, my God, he gobbled them right up, dude. Like, I would just go to his house just to grab food for my Eastern hognose. And I end up, you know, after a year, I let them go back in the wild where I found them from. But yeah, it was pretty cool watching them eat a toad, man. It's pretty wild, man. They pop them. Pretty cool, man. With their fangs, they actually pop them. You see them deflate a little bit when you feed them a toad. It's so cool watching, man. Thanks, Joe. We got one from Milo Hogs here. We've talked about it before. Opinions on the shadow gene, Jeff?
Selectively line-bred polygenetic.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's what he's asking. Genetics, it's definitely a polygenetic. You know, the thing is, it's different. It's different because, you know, it's not, you know, if anybody's going to look at hoggos, selectively line breed them, the first colors you're really going to see is like kind of like yellows, greens, and reds. So those are the ones. But shadow is a darker selectively line bred, and it's going more towards like, you know, some of them have like more boldish saddles.
Yeah.
They're more of like a gray. Some of the original ones I seen were pretty. I seen one of the original ones was really cool. I think there's been a lot of outcrossing with it now, so you're not seeing as strong as results because they're being bred into morphs and other combinations. Mm-hmm. And so we do that with the polygenetic, especially if the polygenetic hasn't been line bred very strongly for a long period of time. You're going to lose a lot of those characteristics,
features.
So that's the thing. You want it. The longer you line breed something and the stronger you get the characteristics, the easier you'll have breeding it back when you do, say, cross it into a morph to try to get this polygenetic combined into something else.
Nice. All right. Wow, 88 people through the room. We got 22 viewers right now. It's crazy.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's been really good, actually. I guess we'll do this the last question unless somebody has something else. And I'm getting really tired, guys. Like I said, I only had like 3-4 hours last night. I'm pretty freaking tired. Trin Murray, Jeff, do you ever use sheds from other males to encourage breeding from uninterested males? That's actually a good question.
Yeah, that's actually, I think, you know what? I used to hear that a lot because I've tried that I actually even forgot about that because it wasn't an idea that was mine because I'd seen that being done with like king snake breeders would talk about doing that. And so I tried that with hognose. And I don't know if it really, I mean, the thing is, it's kind of one of those things you don't know if it worked or if it really didn't. I don't think it really is necessary at all. I don't think it's definitely not going to get a male that wasn't going to breed a female to breed a female, in my opinion. The chances of that, I think, would be like really, really low because and what I do in lieu of that now, because I have tried that like in the past, now I always have like extra males. So if I have a female that just really isn't receptive or a male that's not that interested, I'll sometimes put another male or sometimes like another female. Sometimes I'll have 2 males and 2 females in a tub and to try to get some, to try to encourage breeding and everything to stimulate their, natural response to one.
That's what you told me to do with Snowball. Same thing. Put Nirvana in with Snowball with Gal and see what happens.
Yeah, because that you get a stronger reaction. Like I had females that were actually not being receptive and wouldn't let males lock. And when I put like 3 males with the female, then one of the males would lock. The other thing is too, this is actually interesting. It's not that uncommon, but I found certain males and certain females, the females are more receptive to certain males. So you could actually have a male that's a decent breeder and put him with a particular female, and you might actually have better luck with another male. Certain ones seem to be a little more receptive with one another for some reason.
Very well said. All right, thanks guys for the chat and all the great info, guys. Matt M, thank you very much. Jeff Galewood, thank you very much for coming on here with me. I know it was last minute. I appreciate it. I know you're an incredibly busy guy. You're a freaking legend, and you're a wealth of knowledge. And I know a lot of people loved everything you had to say here, man. Everybody in the comments were just like, "Oh my God, great information! Thank you for answering the questions and all that." Guys, I'm extremely tired, as you can tell. But Jeff, hang in there with me after I end the stream. I want to talk to you for a second off stream.
Okay.
And 23 viewers right now. We had 92 through the room, guys. Thank you very much, man. I appreciate your support, man. Which last question, of course, from MKL Exotics. What's Jeff's favorite color?
My favorite color.
That's a good question. That's a good question to end the stream.
I feel like, because I was like, listening to this thing with Charlie Munger about psychology and how pretty much we're manipulated constantly at all times. And I don't want to get into that because that's ridiculous, but, blue.
Blue? The color of your shirt, right?
Yeah. I mean, what kind of blue?
Mine's purple. Purple. I love purple.
Purple's good.
As you can tell.
Purple's a mix of blue and red.
You can tell
actually,
in the background. It's all purple.
So I was at the dentist, and the lady's like, "What color toothbrush do you want?"
Yeah,
I'm like, "I'm 34. Is that a real question?" And she's like, "Yeah."
Yeah,
and
I'm 34. Like, just give me a fucking toothbrush. It's like, what the fuck?
Right. Well, she's like, "We have green, blue, purple, and pink." And I said, "Give me purple." And she goes, "Really? Purple is very common. Everybody's saying purple." I was like, "Probably because you're asking mostly guys, and they're thinking, well, blue and green is the most common. Everybody says blue or green, so give me purple." And I'm not good. The pink is too extreme. See, the thing is, pink by itself, I think actually pink's a really cool color, especially in August. Like, I like pink and black. So that's other things too, is these colors that contrast. But overall, I mean, like, I like blue. Cobalt blue is really cool.
Dude, I wore black my whole life, dude. DJ nightclubs, dude. In the goth industrial clubs, dude. Industrial goth clubs, yeah, they all dressed in black, and I dressed in black as a DJ, so, yeah. Crazy.
Yeah, you probably people bumping into you because it's all dark in there and they couldn't see you.
well, yeah, it was pretty dark, but here's what it is. All right, Jeff, hang out for a minute. Guys, thank you very much, dude. I appreciate your support, your newfound support, continuous support. Make sure you go check out Jeff over at JMG Reptile on Instagram. The link is down below in the description box. I appreciate it, guys. My next video should be tomorrow. Maybe I can catch, I don't want to disturb it too much, but maybe I can sneak a camera in there and get some... get some eggs being laid by Rosie. That'd be a freaking really good video. But guys, wish Rosie the best of luck in the next day or two, man, because she's gonna need it, man. She's pretty thick, man. She's gonna. What do you think, Jeff? You said 12 to 14 eggs. You think?
Yeah.
Fertile.
How much did she weigh?
You think
How much
fertile?
did she weigh before you? How much did she weigh before you bred her?
All right, I weighed her. So she was 240 out of brumation. Okay.
Okay.
And when I weighed her last week, she was 442, I think.
Jeez. I'm just gonna and you could. Here's the thing: you can get small eggs. You could have a lot.
She's 200 grams. She's 200 grams over from.
Yeah, she's like she's got gross in there too. I don't know. I still say it's gonna be maybe 14. Could be like 16 eggs. I could be wrong. Could be like something like could be crazy. She could lay smaller eggs and like a larger clutch could be like 20 something.
And
I don't think it's gonna be that many, but I think it's gonna be like around 14.
Yeah, Gal was 204. Well, I got something going on Instagram. People are like betting on, not betting, but trying to guess how many eggs. And then Gal is like, she was 204 and she's 410 right now.
Jeez.
Yeah, she's really thick, dude. Like somebody said on Instagram, dude, when I posted a picture of her, they're like, dude, she looks like a freaking toy, like a stuffed toy, because she's like, so she has the ripples in her stomach and shit like that when she's like bent over and like. She looks like a stuffed toy. I'm like, yeah, dude, she's really stuffed, all right, man. So yeah, it's crazy. All right, Jeff, hang out for a little bit. Extreme Pink Line, thank you very much. Milo Hogs, everybody, Exotic, MKL Exotic. Thank you guys for stopping by. I appreciate it. I would like to do this with Jeff at least once a month would be great because these streams are doing very well. So peace out, guys. Thank you very much. Jeff, give me a second. And love you guys. Have a good night. Have a good week. I will see you in the next video. This is Joe from Hoggin out. I'm out. Cheers. Thanks, guys. Cheers. All right. I had to do that. All right, brother.